All right, let's dive into something kind of incredible. We're talking self-image today
Yeah.
and using Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz as our guide. This book, I think, might have some answers for you
Yeah.
about reaching your full potential.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So what do you think is so interesting about this?
Well, Maltz, he was a plastic surgeon, not a psychologist. And he started noticing something. These patients, they'd have facial surgery, right? And some of them, I mean, they transform, not just physically, but like their whole personality, their outlook on life.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, like, it wasn't just a new nose.
Right,
So it was
man.
something deeper.
Deeper, yeah. That's how he got to this idea of the self-image.
The self-image.
Yeah, he calls it the face of personality. It's this picture, mental and spiritual, that you have of yourself.
Okay.
And that picture, that self-image, it can hold you back or it can really push you forward, maybe even more than anything that changes on the outside.
It's interesting you say that because it almost sounds like you're saying it's like a blueprint, like a mental blueprint.
I like that, yeah. Yeah, it's like a thermostat. Think of it like that.
Okay.
Your brain, like a thermostat. You set it to a temperature and it keeps working to keep it there, right? Your self-image, that's like the thermostat for your whole life. It sets the temperature for how successful you are, your relationships, even how happy you are overall.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, it really is. It guides everything. Your actions, reactions, what you believe about yourself, everything.
Okay, hold on a sec. Is this where cybernetics comes in?
Yeah,
Because I've heard that word before, but I got to be honest,
sure.
it sounds a little intimidating.
Don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds. Cybernetics, it's basically the study of systems that work towards a goal, like how do they reach that goal?
Okay.
And Maltz, he realized that you could use these cybernetic ideas to understand this self-image thing, how it works, how to change it.
Okay, so how does that connect, cybernetics and the self-image? I mean, especially changing it. That's the part we want to know.
Right. Well, the big thing Maltz found, the key is experiencing.
Right.
Now, you might be thinking, well, duh, we experience things all the time.
Right. Yeah, that's life.
But Maltz is talking about something more specific.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Okay, so think about learning to ride a bike.
Right.
You don't just read a manual, right? You get on, you fall, you get back up, and you do it again and again.
You got to experience it.
You got to experience it. Each fall, each wobble, that's an experience. That's what shapes how well you understand it and how good you get.
So are you saying the self-image is built up through those real-life experiences,
Yeah,
like the successes and failures we go through?
exactly. Every experience you have, good or bad, it adds to this picture you have of yourself. And here's the crazy part. Maltz figured out that your nervous system, it can't tell the difference between something that really happened and something you imagined super vividly.
Wait a minute, so you're saying my brain reacts the same way to something I imagine as something that actually happened?
Yeah, that's the power of what he calls synthetic experience. Your brain, it treats that imagined scenario as if it were real. So you can actually change your self-image just by using your imagination.
Okay, now that's getting really interesting. So if our brains can't tell the difference, does that mean we could, like, practice success? Like, practice being confident or even get over our fears just by thinking about it in the right way?
That's exactly what Maltz says. He found that practicing in your mind using the synthetic experience, it actually improves how you do in real life. Like an athlete going over their moves before a game.
That makes sense?
Yeah. The more details you put into that mental picture, the stronger the effect on your self-image.
This is wild. So we're talking about actually reprogramming our self-image using our imagination.
Yeah.
It sounds almost too good to be true.
It's not about just wishing, though. It takes effort, real effort, and practice. You got to keep doing it. Maltz, he recommends this 21-day rule to change a mental image.
So there's no snapping our fingers and changing overnight.
No.
What's this 21-day rule all about?
No. It's about consistently doing those synthetic experiences every day for a while, like building a new habit. You need that repetition to really make a new pattern in your brain.
So how do we actually do that? Like, what are some practical ways to create these synthetic experiences and change our self-image?
Well, that's where it gets really practical. Maltz really pushes techniques like visualization, like spending time each day imagining yourself doing the things you want to do, reaching those goals you have.
Okay.
The more detail you add to that, the more powerful it becomes.
So it's not just a quick daydream. It's like a focused practice.
And exactly. You want to create a full experience in your mind. Like you can see it, you can feel the emotions, even hear the sounds around you. Your nervous system, it responds to that. And it makes it more likely that you'll actually act in line with this new, improved self-image you're building.
You know, that reminds me of all this talk about manifesting these days. Is there a connection there?
Yeah, there are some similarities for sure. But what makes Maltz different is that he's got this solid base in cybernetics, right? And he really focuses on actively doing these experiences over and over, not just hoping. It's about rewiring your brain, like retraining your inner guidance system so it takes you to the life you want.
So it's not just wishful thinking. It's about taking action
Yeah,
to
exactly.
change your mindset and how you behave.
Right. And another big technique Maltz talks about is positive self-talk. We've all got that voice in our head, always commenting on what we do.
Oh, yeah.
He says we need to notice that voice and consciously make it more positive, more encouraging.
So instead of focusing on what we're bad at or things we messed up in the past,
Yeah.
we start focusing on what we're good at and what we could achieve.
Exactly. You catch yourself when you're being negative to yourself and you swap those thoughts out with something that supports you. You're basically rewriting the story in your mind, making a new one that fits the person you want to become.
But what about when you've had a ton of bad experiences in the past? I mean, doesn't that make it harder to shift to a more positive self-image?
It can be tough, yeah. But that's where Maltz's ideas are so helpful. He reminds us that this self-image, it's not set in stone. It's something we can change. We can choose to change it.
So how do we do that? How do we rewrite that story when the past keeps dragging us back?
Maltz says we need to reframe those past experiences. Instead of dwelling on the bad stuff, look for the lessons you learned, the ways you grew from those challenges.
So it's not about erasing the past, it's about looking at it differently, in a way that helps build a better self-image.
Exactly. You find the meaning, the value in those experiences, even the tough ones. And remember, you're not alone in this. Being around positive people, those who believe in you and support you, that makes a huge difference.
It's like having a personal cheer squad for your self-image.
Yeah, exactly.
Their belief in you helps you see your own potential.
Right. Their positive energy, their encouragement, it can help you overcome those doubts and become a more confident, more capable version of yourself.
This is really empowering stuff.
It is.
It sounds like Maltz is saying we have way more control over our lives than we think.
That's the beauty of it. You're not just a product of your past or what's happening around you. You have the power to shape your self-image. And by doing that, you shape your reality.
This has been an awesome deep dive. What's really stood out to you from Maltz's work?
For me, it's that reminder that we're not fixed. We're always changing. We can change, we can grow, and we can become the best versions of ourselves. And it all starts with that self-image, making it healthy and strong.
That's a powerful message. It's not about pretending the tough stuff isn't there. It's about recognizing that we can change,
Yeah.
that we can grow. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Okay.
What's one experience, it could be real or just in your imagination, that you could start using today to reshape that self-image and unlock new possibilities?
That's a great question to think about. And remember, you have the power to create the life you want. Start small, practice those visualization techniques, work on that positive self-talk, and be around people who lift you up.
Good advice.
And be patient with yourself. Real change takes time and effort.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the power of the self-image. Hopefully you got some good insights you can start using today.
I hope so.
Remember, you've got the power inside you to create the life you want. So how do we do that? How do we create those synthetic experiences? What are some practical things we can do to actually change our self-image?
That's where it gets really interesting. Maltz, he really focuses on techniques like visualization,
Yeah.
where you spend time each day really picturing yourself behaving the way you want to, achieving those goals you've got.
Okay, so it's more than just daydreaming.
Right. It's got to be focused.
Deliberate.
Yeah, you want to create this rich experience in your mind. You see yourself succeeding. You feel the emotions that come with it. You can even hear the sounds of that environment. It's detailed.
Wow, that's pretty powerful.
It is, because your nervous system, it responds to all those details. And that makes you more likely to actually act in a way that matches this new, better self-image you're building.
It makes me think about all this talk about manifesting we hear these days.
Yeah, there are definitely some similarities. But what sets Maltz apart, I think, is that his whole approach is grounded in cybernetics, right?
Right.
And he stresses the importance of actively, repeatedly having those experiences, not just passively hoping for things to change. It's about rewiring your brain, like retraining your internal guidance system, so it leads you toward the life you actually want.
So it's not just wishful thinking. It's about concrete steps
Exact.
to change how you think and how you act.
Absolutely. And another powerful technique Maltz talks about is positive self-talk.
Yeah, positive self-talk. I've heard of that.
We all have that inner voice, right? The one that's always commenting on everything we do.
Well,
He says we need to become more aware of that voice and then consciously shift it to be more positive, more encouraging.
so instead of focusing on our weaknesses or past mistakes,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
shift our focus to our strengths and our potential.
Exactly. It's about catching yourself when that negative self-talk creeps in and replacing those thoughts with ones that are more supportive, more empowering. You're basically rewriting the script that's playing in your mind, creating a new narrative that aligns with the person you want to be.
That makes a lot of sense. But what about when someone's had a lot of negative experiences in the past? I mean, doesn't that make it harder to create a more positive self-image?
It can be challenging for sure, but that's where Maltz's insights are so valuable. He
No.
reminds us that the self-image isn't fixed. It's something we can actively change. We have the power to do that.
So how do we do that? How do we rewrite that story when the past keeps pulling us back?
Maltz suggests reframing those past experiences. Instead of getting stuck in the negativity, we can look for the lessons we learned, see how we grew from those challenges, even the tough ones.
So it's not about erasing the past, it's about reinterpreting it, finding a way to see it that supports a healthier self-image.
You got it. It's about finding the meaning, the value in those experiences, even the difficult ones. And remember, you're not alone in this journey. Surrounding yourself with positive influences, people who believe in you and support your growth, that can make a world of difference.
It's like having a cheerleading squad for your self-image. Their belief in you helps you see your own potential more clearly.
Exactly. Their positive energy and encouragement can help you overcome self-doubt and step into a more confident and capable version of yourself.
This is incredibly empowering stuff. It sounds like Maltz is saying we have much more control over our lives and destinies than we might realize.
That's the beauty of it. You're not simply a product of your past or your circumstances. You have the power to actively shape your self-image and, in turn, shape your reality.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. What stood out to you most from Maltz's work?
For me, it's the reminder that we are not fixed. We are constantly evolving. We have the capacity to change, to grow, and to become the best versions of ourselves. And it all starts with cultivating a healthy and empowering self-image.
That's a powerful message. It's not about denying the challenges, but recognizing our inherent capacity for change and growth.
Yeah.
It's funny, we hear believe in yourself all the time, but no one really tells you how to do that.
Right.
It feels like Maltz is actually giving us like a roadmap.
Yeah, I think so too. And a key point he makes is that belief, it doesn't just appear magically. It comes from experience, real experiences and imagined ones.
So it's not just about affirmations, right? You got to actually do something, even if it starts in your mind.
Exactly. Think of it like this. If you want to be a great musician,
Okay.
you wouldn't just sit around thinking about being on stage one day.
No, you got to practice.
You got to pick up the instrument, practice, get better over time. Building self-belief is kind of the same way.
So those visualizations, where you imagine yourself succeeding,
Yeah,
that's like the practice for your self-image.
exactly. You keep experiencing success in your mind. You're basically training your brain to believe you can do it. And then when you add positive self-talk and start taking action in the real world, it just gets stronger.
It's like a cycle then.
It is. It is. The more you believe in yourself, the more you do things that lead to success, and that just makes you believe in yourself even more.
That makes sense. Maltz, he gives a lot of advice on how to break out of those negative cycles and create these positive ones.
Yeah.
This has been a really fascinating look at the self-image. It's amazing to think we might have more control over our lives than we realize.
It really is. Maltz's work, it reminds us that we're not just stuck with the past or with what's happening around us. We can choose what we think, what we believe, and that leads to choosing our actions. And when we do that, we actually shape our own reality.
And it all starts with that mental picture,
Yeah.
that self-image we have of ourselves.
Well said. Building a strong, healthy self-image, that's the foundation for achieving anything you set your mind to.
Well, this has been a great deep dive. Thanks for joining us today as we explored the power of the self-image with Maxwell Maltz. We hope you learned some valuable things that you can start using today.
I hope so too.
Remember, you have the power to create the life you want.